So, here's a confession. Blood Dragon is the one I hadn't played. Every other game in the series, I came into these videos with history. I'd played the original Far Cry on PlayStation 3, even platinumed the thing. Sweated through Far Cry 2's checkpoints more times than I'd like to admit. Spent God knows how many hours replaying those co-op missions on Far Cry 3, and I had opinions that had been forming for years. Blood Dragon? Nothing. I knew the aesthetic. Everyone knows the aesthetic. The neon, the VHS scanlines, the cyber, everything. I knew it was a standalone expansion built on Far Cry 3's bones. And I knew it had a reputation as this fun little side dish that people remembered fondly but rarely talked about with the same weight as the mainline entries. So when I finally sat down to play it for this series, I wasn't expecting much. A 6-hour novelty. A reskin with a sense of humor. Something to cover between the real games. I was wrong. Really wrong. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is not just a good spin-off, it's one of the most confident, tightly scoped and purely fun games in the entire franchise. And the fact that it was built in barely a year on another game's skeleton makes it kind of remarkable. Blood Dragon exists because someone at Ubisoft Montreal had an idea that should have been laughed out of the room. Take Far Cry 3, strip out the tropical islands, the realistic tone, the narrative ambition, and replace it with the neon fever dream inspired by 80s action movies, Saturday morning cartoons, and VHS era sci-fi. Cyber Commando protagonist voiced by Michael Biehn. Robot soldiers, laser dinosaurs, a post-apocalyptic 2007 as imagined by someone in 1987. Standalone download, budget price. On paper, a joke. In practice, anything but. Dean Evans led the project as creative director, and the team took the absurdity seriously. Blood Dragon isn't a parody that winks at the camera. It's a love letter from people who grew up on Terminator, Predator, RoboCop, and Commando. Who absorbed those films so completely that they could rebuild the tone from memory. Development took roughly a year, built on Far Cry 3's engine, tools and systems. The framework existed, so the team could focus entirely on the creative layer. It launched in April 2013, 5 months after Far Cry 3, priced at $15. It sold well, reviewed well, and carved out a cult following that persists to this day. Not bad for a side project. Blood Dragon looks incredible, not in the way Far Cry 3 did. Naturalistic, inviting, a place you could imagine visiting. Blood Dragon looks incredible because it looks like nothing else. The color palette does most of the work. Electric pinks, deep purples, toxic greens, laser reds, all set against a permanent night sky that makes the world feel like the inside of an arcade cabinet. The terrain is Far Cry 3's island geography relit and retextured into something cybernetic and hostile. Rock formations glow from within. The water is opaque black. Every surface emits rather than reflects, giving everything a radioactive beauty. The permanent nighttime means the entire visual design is built around darkness, which lets the neon hit harder. Every light source reads cleanly. You're always walking through something that looks like a movie poster. The environmental retexturing does more with recycled assets than you'd expect. Garrisons that were once wooden pirate camps are now steel and concrete installations ringed with electric fences. The vegetation feels irradiated rather than lush. Ruins glow with whatever catastrophe ended the world. Even the animals, reskinned with glowing eyes and metallic plating, feel native to this world rather than borrowed from another game. Explosions bloom in pinks and purples instead of oranges, so firefights look more like fireworks shows. The Blood Dragons trail a faint glow as they move, meaning you can sometimes spot one by the light it casts on the terrain before you see the creature itself. The VHS aesthetic ties it together. Scanlines on the screen. Cutscenes rendered as 16-bit pixel art, the UI, the weapon models, even the collectible descriptions. Everything commits to the fiction of a future imagined 40 years ago. The minimap has CRT curvature. The health bar looks like a power meter from an 80s cartoon. None of these details are essential, but all of them matter. And it doesn't get old. A visual gimmick could easily outstay its welcome in 60 hours. But Blood Dragon's aesthetic works precisely because it isn't overtly long. You're playing something with its own identity, that also happens to share a skeleton with Far Cry 3. Power Glove composed the soundtrack, and it might be the most important creative decision the team made outside of hiring Biehn. Heavy synths, pulsing arpeggios, driving drum machines, soaring melodies that sound ripped from the climax of a film that doesn't exist. When the fight kicks off and the score surges, the game stops feeling like a spin-off entirely. The quieter tracks work just as well. Brooding synth pads add ambience that make wandering the world feel like the establishing shot of a lost sci-fi film. The weapon audio inherits Far Cry 3's punch but adds sci-fi flavor as the arsenal evolves, shifting from familiar rifle cracks to laser whines and energy pulses. Biehn's voice work as Rex Power Colt is perfect. He plays Rex as a man with absolutely no idea he's in a comedy. Deadpan, gruff, and completely sincere. But that's what makes the humor work. If he'd winked at the material, the whole thing collapses. Instead, Rex is played with the same commitment being brought to Kyle Reese and Corporal Hicks. The comedy comes from the gap between his seriousness and the world's ridiculousness. The one-liners are relentless, the quality varies, but even the weaker ones land because Bean sells them like gospel. On paper, Blood Dragon is Far Cry 3. Same engine, same systems, same loop. But it still feels different. Rex is faster than Jason, noticeably faster. He moves with a fluidity that makes traversal effortless, and the slight sluggishness Far Cry 3 occasionally had is gone entirely. He can breathe underwater indefinitely and survive falls that would kill Jason 5 times over. In Far Cry 3, falling off a cliff was a death sentence. In Blood Dragon, it's a shortcut. You see a garrison in the valley below, you jump off the ridge, you land, and you start shooting. No parachute, no wingsuit, just a cyber commando and gravity. He's also got a cybernetic eye that replaces Far Cry 3's camera for tagging enemies. It works the same, but the fiction of a built-in scanner rather than a handheld device reinforces the fantasy. The vehicles are there, but I barely use them, and that's a compliment to Rex's mobility rather than a complaint. Running felt better than driving, so I ran. And honestly, there's something freeing about an open world game where you stay on foot by choice. You start out conventional, assault rifle, pistol, shotgun, sniper. But as you unlock upgrades, the weapons mutate. Incendiary shotgun, explosive sniper rounds, 4-round laser bursts on the rifle, a literal minigun, and the Killstar, a continuous energy beam that carves through anything. The escalation from soldier to walking apocalypse never stops being fun. The bow also returns, still silent, still precise, now with glowing arrows and a neon trial. Some things don't need to change. Takedowns are available from the start, and they're faster and more brutal than Jason's. Quick knife slashes, neck snaps, less windup, more lethality. Jason becomes lethal throughout his story, but Rex started his lethal. The cyber soldiers are more aggressive than Far Cry 3's pirates. More willing to push your position, and the heavier variants with shields and flamethrowers keep you adapting. They're not brilliant, but they don't need to be. Blood Dragon strips Far Cry 3's progression to its essentials. The skill tree is automated. Rex levels up by gaining experience. Each level unlocking abilities on a set schedule. No menus, no branches. You play and you get stronger. In a 6-hour game, that's exactly right. The garrisons work like Far Cry 3's outposts and they're still the best part of the game. Same sandbox, same emergent chaos, same satisfaction. 13 total. The layouts have enough variety that each one feels distinct. Some on hilltops that favor sniping, some on valleys with dense cover for stealth, and some with heavy enemy presence where going loud is the only real option. But what Blood Dragon adds is the Blood Dragons themselves, and they might be the best single addition to the Far Cry formula ever. Massive, laser-eyed, neon-blooded dinosaurs that roam the world and will absolutely wreck you if you're unprepared. They're fast, they're aggressive, and they take enormous damage, and their laser eyes can basically insta-kill you. They are the apex predators. Everything, you included, is beneath them. In the open world, they're roaming hazards that make Far Cry 3's tigers look like house cats. You'll be sprinting across a hillside, hear that low growl, and your stomach drops. You check the minimap, you see the icon, and you quickly run the other way. The genius is that you can weaponize them. Cyber soldiers drop cyber hearts when killed. Throw a heart near a garrison and any nearby dragon charges towards it, destroying everything in its path. Lure one in, toss a heart over the fence, sit on a hillside and watch a laser dinosaur dismantle an entire base. Or use them as distractions. Throw a heart one way while you sneak in the other. Bait two to the same spot and let them fight each other while you mop up. It doesn't always work, as the dragon might turn on you, or the soldiers might kill it first, or it just wanders off. But when it does, it's one of the most satisfying things in the franchise. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? The smartest thing Blood Dragon does is know when to stop. 6 hours, maybe 7 if you do everything, which I did. Every garrison, every mission, every collectible, and it still felt lean. Far Cry 3's biggest problems all came from being longer than its systems could sustain. Blood Dragon sidesteps every one by ending before they develop. You don't get overpowered, the world doesn't get stale, the joke doesn't wear thin, the credits roll while you're still having fun. The map is smaller too, and that's a good thing. Dense rather than sprawling. You're always within a short sprint of something to do, but the world never feels cluttered. There's room for a quiet run through the neon landscape with the synth score in your ears, but there's no dead air. Not every game needs to be 40 hours, or 100, and Blood Dragon is proof. The year is 2007, a 2007 that 1987 imagined. Nuclear war has scorched the earth, cyborgs patrol the ruins. You are Sergeant Rex Power Colt, Mark IV Cyber Commando, Vietnam veteran, the second one, the good one, and the last best hope of a world that probably doesn't deserve saving. Your former CEO has gone rogue, building a cyber army and weaponizing blood dragons. You're sent to stop him. You team up with a scientist who wants out. There's a romance, a training montage, and a final assault where you ride a blood dragon into battle while a power ballad plays. The plot is intentionally, gloriously stupid. Blood Dragon isn't satirizing 80s action movies. It is one. The one-liners, the revenge plot, the betrayal, the impossible final mission. Every beat lands because the game plays them completely straight. The tutorial is a perfect example. It's deliberately terrible, condescending, interrupting, explaining things any gamer knows. Rex comments on how annoying it is. When it finally lets go, the relief is real. It's a joke about tutorials that also genuinely frustrates you, and Bean holds it all together. Rex could easily grate the constant quips, the posturing, the total absence of self-doubt, but the commitment to sincerity gives him a weird charm. He's not a parody of an 80s action hero, he is one, played without a trace of irony, and you end up rooting for him because of how absurd he is. The game knows when to be sincere too. The power ballad during the final dragon ride is genuinely stirring. You've been through the whole journey, and when the music swells and Rex charges into battle on the back of a laser dinosaur, the emotion is real, ridiculous and earnest at the same time. That's the tightrope Blood Dragon walks through its entire runtime without falling off. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon shouldn't exist. Budget expansion, recycled assets, fever dream premise. No business being this good. But it is. Clear identity, perfect scope, and total commitment. The visuals are striking. The music is phenomenal. Rex handles like a dream. The dragons are a masterstroke, and Bean delivers every line like the world depends on it. What surprised me most is how well it holds up without nostalgia. I came to this expecting a novelty and found what might be, hour for hour, the most purely enjoyable entry in the franchise. Not the deepest or the most ambitious, but the one that knows exactly what it is and never wastes your time. 6 hours, no filler, all killer. Rex approved. As always, thanks for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment and subscribe as I have 261 more games to cover. I've been Xenovus, more videos soon. Ish.